This is Sneaker Gears. My name is Levi and welcome to another episode of Power Gears. Today we're going to show you a comprehensive review and comparison of the new Nike Metcon DSX 2. Starting with all the issues, I think Nike did an amazing job listening to their athletes and listening to what the consumers wanted. So going from the ground up, a big issue with Metcon since the first one has been they kind of squeak. So that's something that we'll get into how they resolve that. On the DSX1 specifically, that was one that there was potentially some heel slippage for a lot of folks, as well as that's something that affected some of the Metcon 3 owners as well. Finally, the tongue, or maybe lack thereof, very flimsy, light on the DSX, and something that was, again, very thin and didn't provide much cushion on any of the Metcon 1, 2, or 3. And then finally, just the containment and lateral support, something where the Flykit was very loose, very, I guess, forgiving for fit-wise, but didn't provide much lateral support. So all in all, a lot of things they could have done with the DSX, and even going back to the cushioning, actually the stability, because it was meant more for, say, runs, jumps, it wasn't quite as stable as what a lot of people in the CrossFit community, or maybe if you're used to workout shoes that have that stability as, say, a Nano, it generally was more on the comfort side of things, which is a good departure. But if you're going to lose stability, I mean, you have to have a better compromise, and Nike really did listen. So let's take a look at what they fixed and what they got right. Starting with the cushion, the new insole actually uses a completely different rubber compound. It is a lot more flexible, has a completely different feel, and it doesn't squeak. So the first time I tried it on, the left shoe had some slight squeakage. This is a midsole, so it is meant to be taken off, on. You can switch it up. Once I took it out, put it back in, I guess it kind of reset. Have not had any issues since. Now this does use a 6mm drop from heel to toe, which is different than your 4mm drop on your general Metcons. That being said, I think that increased heel height really does a benefit to most users as far as not having as much ankle flexibility for those squat or Olympic lifts. Now, the density of this is quite a bit thicker. So even though it is a thicker heel than your general Metcon insole, that additional I guess, would be cushioning that you lost stability, and that's something that this came in the regular DSX. This, they try to use the same rubber compound, but as you can tell, the grooves helped it with the flexibility for running, but it was still very squeaky. It used maybe, I don't know if it was a softer rubber, but that same rubber, when you start increasing it, just lost some of that stable feeling when you are going into lifts. So I'm happy to say that they've improved, both the squeakiness, they've kept the flexibility for running, so this is still a very good shoe as far as the fluidity. It's not quite as comfortable. That increased density did add to the stability of it, but kind of like the Nano 7, it is not quite as cushioned, but I think they struck a nice balance. Getting into the heel slip, I think Nike really did as much as they possibly could for a majority of athletes, starting with just adding a giant Achilles pillow. This is something that really does hug your Achilles and does a great job as far as locking you in, so you really never feel like your heel's ever going to come out. I did put a Lunar Midsole, and this is something that you can get on the Nike Mamba Rage or Mamba Instinct, and this, because the heel is a little bit higher, I would say probably another 2 or 3 millimeters, with the Achilles Pillow, even then, it still did not give me any heel slippage. That on top of, you can kind of see the way this wraps around, so if you look at the differences of material here, you can kind of see the grains from here to here. This whole wrap around the foot really pulls you into the shoe, and this is highly sculpted as far as a lot more cushion here, as well as going into the tongue. They've removed the tongue entirely, so you're not going to have anything moving around. This is elastic. So on the fitness side of things for Nike, Nike has been doing kind of a slip-on sock on their basketball shoes, on their golf shoes, on their tennis shoes for quite a few years now. This is the first time they brought it to the training shoe. So this is something I'm happy to report. I do have a, I guess, mid to high instep, and that's the height of your foot, and this does not bother me whatsoever. In fact, I actually haven't really needed to tie these, to be completely transparent. Now, I did tighten up a little bit more doing lateral, and that's something, the materials, this does a much better job just with the stiffness of the knit they've done, where this is going to give you better containment. Now, that is achieved through, one, obviously the materials, but two, that lockdown 3, that Achilles. So fit overall, I think they've done a much better job than what they've done on the DSX1, and then even the lockdown they got on the Metcon 3. Now, durability is one thing I cannot attest to, just because this is a knit. This is not going to be as durable as your Metcon 3, and the Metcon 4, one of the big press releases, they've said Josh Bridges has claimed this is the first shoe he has not torn through. Now, the biggest two things that you're going to have wear and tear, especially in CrossFit, is on box jumps as well as on rope climbs. I do box jumps. I don't really do rope climbs. I do need to get back into a CrossFit gym. I did that for about 3 months this year, so I will be going back to this new year, so I do want to kind of increase what I'm doing. But as far as everything else is concerned, I will say because of the knit and the strength of that is not as forgiving. I was able to do a 12. I did a 12.5 on the DSX. I did do a 13 on this. I maybe have been able to do a 12.5. So if you do have a wide foot, maybe that's something to consider. Being knit, it is something that will stretch some, but also looking at that instep. If you have a high instep, you do want to potentially try this on. I don't really want to get into color or styles because that's something that's personal, but these look incredible. In hand, they are a bit heavier. As you can imagine, they've added more padding, they've added more shape, more materials. So this is overall a heavier shoe than the DSX. On foot, honestly, you can't really tell. Now, if you're coming from a Metcon 1, Metcon 2, or what have you, this is something I would definitely recommend as an upgrade. You are able to use that midsole and swap it in if you've kind of worn those out. If you are coming from the Nano 6, this is something that you're getting that stability, you're getting that flexibility, and you're getting a lot more than I think what the Nano 7 has offered. Now, if you're comparing this to the Speed TR, what I would say is this is going to give you a little bit more cushion and a little bit better lateral stability. So definitely an upgrade overall. Now, I did just launch my best training shoe of 2017, and that is the JJ Watt. The JJ Watt is going to be, again, maybe even heavier, have even more cushioning, but is not going to be, I guess, as light and as flexible as what this is offering, but a huge step up from Nike. If I was comparing to the two, I would really have to give it a little bit more thought. Reebok is coming out with a Nano 8 that is going to revamp the entire Nano 7, so that's something that should be exciting to look at. But if you were considering the DSX2, I would definitely give it my thumbs up and recommendation from the Metcon line, just because Nike has improved pretty much everything that people were asking for. Guys, hopefully that helps. Please shoot your comments below and questions. I'll do my best to answer them. As always, I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next time.